Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño. Today we're going to talk about the right moment to take that picture. If you're like me, then you've probably seen pictures and thought, oh my gosh, what a magical moment, right? Whether it's an amazing smile of a kid while something's happening around them, or like an animal in flight catching something. I mean, you wonder, like, this photographer must have been following them and maybe just decided to take that shot when this happened, or maybe they were shooting a burst and this happened. Like, these are shots that don't happen all the time, right? And we ask ourselves, how do you calculate that if there even was a way, right? So we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that today. There are moments in life that can be captured. There are moments in life that can't be captured. We'll discuss those quickly. And then there are moments in life that we can plan to capture. So let's break those up. Let's understand them so that we don't feel bad when we walk away not capturing a shot. Here we go. Basically what I'm saying is we have to ask ourselves, does every photo have a right moment? And the answer is going to be no, but let's analyze this a little further. Now, I've been shooting for a long time, and I've been shooting in the city before I even knew what street photography was. I was raised in New York City. I was shooting film in the 80s, and I have friends that I used to go shoot with, including my brother. And I've been shooting film and, doing street photography for a long time before I even knew that I was doing street photography and that it was a thing. And I can tell you that in many, many cases, the moment is the correct moment. Now, what do I mean by that? What's the moment? Well, the moment is the moment you're in, right? It's not the, ooh, look what's happening. It's not, what a coincidence. No. Let me use Grand Central Station as an example, right? Grand Central Station is big and it's full of people. And one of the things that I can do is I can wait around for something to happen. But generally, there's so much happening in Grand Central Station that I can basically just stand in a particular place where there's a lot of movement and I can take a picture. And I'm going to grab somebody going by, right? And if I take a picture 2 minutes later, it's going to be another interesting picture. And I take a picture another 2 minutes later, it's going to be another interesting picture. So do I need to stand there and wait for something in particular? I mean, I can, but for the most part, just the fact that I'm capturing people in their natural state walking by. Some people are going to have big hats. Some people are going to have big pants. Some people are going to have a lot of stuff there. They're tugging, suitcases or luggage or carts or shopping carts, whatever, right? It's going to be interesting. So in that case, that's what I mean by the moment, right? The moment is the moment because it's whatever you're in. It's that moment in time that you pull up the camera, you take the picture. You don't have to stay there. You got something cool, move on to a different location. Now that's going to depend a lot on where we are. For example, if I'm here in the outskirts of Atlanta in Georgia, and it's a little town, for example, sitting on a park bench and I'm waiting. Basically, I can't just pick up my camera and shoot something because there's probably not going to be much going on. I'm going to have to set up a shot with a background that I really love, whether it's a building or a car or a motorcycle or something that's happening really cool in the background, right? Some shadows and whatever, patterns. And then I'm going to wait for a person to walk by to make it an authentic street photography shot, right? That's a different category. We're going to get into that next. But I'm talking about just you're in the middle of craze, you're in the middle of something exciting, you're at a fair, for example, right? You're at the circus. When you pick up that camera and you shoot, it's going to be an awesome shot. That's one type of photograph that we take that we don't worry too much about. Speaking of moments that are just great to capture, right? Things that are happening, whether you're at a fair or people are dancing outside in the streets. You see that in big cities a lot, right? A live band will show up on a random Saturday or Sunday afternoon and all the people gather and everybody's dancing and, or there's a DJ in a park. I love those moments. And I come to that specific situation because here is where carrying something is better than not having anything, right? And I want to get into, you know, the big cameras that we professional photographers all own. You're hearing me talk about this a lot lately because many of my friends that are photographers are doing this as well. I've done it a while ago, since 2000, so it's been, you know, 5 years going on now, where I bought a small camera that I can take everywhere, that I can shoot in the streets without drawing too much attention, right? And I would leave my big camera at home, my big professional hefty camera, right? And this camera was just something that I loved to carry. I could put it in my cargo pants with a small lens. I could hang it around my waist with a zoom lens. Fantastic, small, beautiful looking, right? I have something else to show you here. This is a Fuji, right? These are known to be very small. If you look at my hand, right, it's typically a lot smaller than a DSLR or even a full frame. And this is one of their big ones. This is the XH1, right? If you look at the XT1, XT2, all the way through the XT5, they're smaller than this, right? Because this has a big grip, considering, right, that it's a small camera. And look at this lens. Look at this lens. Look how thin this is. They call it a UFO lens. It's smaller than a pancake lens. You go into the city, this actually also fits in my cargo pants, you know, even though it's a little bigger than my other street photography camera, which is the Canon M6 Mark II. So when this camera's sitting around the table, right, and I'm about to leave, I can't wait to take this out and take pictures with it. That's where I'm going with this part of the video, is when you have a camera, and for some people it's their phone, they're not into photography, and that's fine too, but when you have a big DSLR or a big mirrorless camera that's really, really good at doing so many things, but it's boring and heavy and just not the camera you want to pick up and take everywhere, then you end up not taking it, right? And a moment happens, right? Some people start dancing on the street and all you have is this, and you capture a breathtaking moment. You're never going to be able to enlarge it. You're never really going to be able to process it that well because it's a JPEG. It's not really going to work that well, right? Unless you have some of the phones that shoot RAW, and you can do a little more with that, but even then you're kind of limited, right? Those pixels are tiny, they're cramped, and they're not what they say they are. Talk about 200 megapixels, that's processing. That's not real, right? Because even a camera that's made for photography, right now they're up to 100, 150 megapixels. So you're not going to stick 200 megapixels in the phone. It doesn't work that way. A 150 megapixel camera has a sensor that's like this big, right? And it's like half of my phone, you know, so you got to be careful with those specs. But my point here is, if you only have a big camera that you do pro work with and you take it to the mountains, right, and you do like a breathtaking landscapes, when you're going to go out with your family, when you're going to go into a city, when you're going to go into a little park just to capture people randomly, it becomes cumbersome. You become a target for robbery. The camera's cumbersome to carry around all day, and people start to wonder what you're doing, right? Because a big camera and a big lens starts to raise eyebrows. And especially if there are kids around, they start to wonder what you're doing there, right? So when you're walking with a little camera, like my M6 Mark II, let me get it real quick. I'll bring the DSLR too. So this is what I'm showing. This DSLR is the size of like a Canon R3 or a Nikon Z9. So this is what I mean, right? Beautiful camera does a heck of a job. Look how big this is, right? It draws attention. And then look at my little street photography camera. I've been showing this in the videos, right? So this is what you're talking about. Now even my Fuji is bigger than that M6 Mark II, but look at this. It's still small, right? Now when I put this away and I grab my little one again, you're going to see that the little one is still smaller, right? Canon is still smaller. It's thinner, right? But they do different things, right? But this is typically my street photography camera. I want to start playing with this one on the streets because it's still small. Not so pocketable like this. I have a lens like this UFO lens for this camera as well, and this really fits in my front pocket. It doesn't even have to go into cargo pants. This actually fits in the front pocket of my pants. This would have to go in cargo pants, but generally just around my shoulder, right? So what does it mean? If I'm in a park and a party breaks out, carrying something like this because I see it at home and I go, I'm going to take this out, I can't wait to shoot it, maybe I'll grab something cool today. This is what I'm going to have on me, I'm going to capture some beautiful pictures. If this is what I have on me because I love this camera, then I'm going to want to take it out. And it's always a battle now between these two, right? But this is going to stay home, I can tell you right now. If this is sitting on my table and I'm walking out to a park and I turn my head and I see this thing sitting there, I'm going to go, not today. Right? If it's the only camera I would say I'm taking my phone and this is going to be my entertainment for the day, right? So if you have the means, right? If you have the ability to get yourself something like this used, I've been buying this XH1 is secondhand, and look how beautiful this is. This is in mint condition. Look at this. This is in mint condition. This is a beautiful, beautiful camera. It might have fingerprints on it, but it is immaculate, right? And it doesn't say XH1 anywhere, which is unique because the XH2 says XH2 right across the top here. But the XHH is for hybrid. It's a great video camera and photography camera, but those Fuji cameras tend to be photo first cameras. So my point here is get yourself a little camera that you enjoy. It can even be a point and shoot. I have a Canon G16. Let me show you that one. And I want you to know the reason I'm going through all these cameras is not to show off equipment, right? These cameras aren't worth a lot these days, especially these older ones. But it's the point that if you have the ability to get yourself something, look how cool this is. This is like an old retro case, but it's a digital camera. Take this little thing off, and this is my Canon G16. Right, this is like a 12 or 14 megapixel camera. I don't know, but it's got not dials, which I love, right? I got an exposure compensation dial right here, right in my thumb. I have the PASM dial, which is not my favorite. So this one I control aperture, shutter speed, and ISO through the menu, right? It's not a touchscreen. But a camera like this, look how small, right? This is going to be even smaller than my little camera, even with a pancake lens. You see that? Now we're getting really, 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 it's a little taller, right? It's a little taller, right? But it's definitely much thinner when you take that lens away. And the cool thing is this lens, when you turn this camera on, does it have a battery? No, it doesn't. This lens comes out, right? And it's a beautiful lens, 6 to 30 millimeter, but it's not really 6 to 30. I think you have to multiply by 2. So it ends up being like a 12 to 60, but it's a 1.8 to 2.8. And you know, if you take this out of here, right, which you can, this is how I carry it in the street typically. I put this in my pocket, just like we're talking here. You take this case off, and I could put this in my pocket without a strap, and I've taken some beautiful pictures with this camera. I'm going to post some of those pictures now so you can see while I finish this thought, right? But the whole point here is if you have a beautiful, hard-working camera that's big and bulky and plasticky and it doesn't do anything for you, you're not going to want to take it out. So for these moments where you're walking down streets and crazy things are happening and you just pull up your camera and take a shot, you want to have something that you enjoy using. So get yourself a little camera, you know. It can be a Ricoh, which are famous, that's R-I-C-O-H. It can be a Canon, it could be a Nikon. There's so many. The Sonys have a bunch of little small cameras that you can put in your pocket. Anything that captures a 12 megapixel image or higher is going to be beautiful. You can even go lower than that, right? But a 12 megapixel or higher is going to be fantastic. With this little camera, 12 megapixel pictures, I can make those pretty large. I always tell in my previous video, I was showing that image on the wall back there, this one. It's a 24 by 36. I was taken with a 6 megapixel camera, right? And I've made a 40 by 60 inch of that, and I have no problem. It's sold in an art gallery. So don't restrict yourself. Don't get into that, oh, I have to have, you know, my previous camera was 24 megapixel and the new ones are 40, 45, 60. So let me at least get a 40, 45 megapixel camera. Not needed. I mentioned this in my previous video. Sony's coming up in 2025 with a 16 megapixel camera because they want to be able to shoot the ISO up to 400,000 so that you can shoot in basically indoors with dim lights and you're going to get a beautiful picture, right? And you can shoot, you know, frame rates of like burst rates of like 40 frames per second because there isn't a lot of data to carry. It's only 16 megapixels. So every camera is meant to do something different. So get yourself something small, something portable, something that you love holding, that feels good and takes really pretty pictures. That's the camera you're going to want to take out all the time. On the other hand, there are times for the second type of photography where we sit around for minutes, sometimes even hours, for something to happen. Now, Ansel Adams was famous for this, right? I've talked about this before. There's a famous shot of his where there's a valley, right? And him and his wife parked themselves up in the mountains. And he was driving around, and I can't remember if it was Yosemite, I can't remember which park, Yellowstone. He used to spend a lot of time out there. And him and his wife were eating sandwiches and drinking coffee for, you want to hear it? 1 month. Now, I'm assuming they were close enough that when they ran out of supplies, they could go back and get more, right? I wouldn't want to keep sandwiches in the car for a month, but they were eating sandwiches and drinking coffee, and he waited 1 month to take the picture. What he was waiting for was the right cloud setup, right? He was very much into dramatic clouds because he would ultra process these things after the fact on film, believe it or not. And he knew what he was looking for, basically, right? So he waited and waited and waited. I should say they waited because his wife was with him. And what happened on the day when he came out of his car and said, "This is it, this is it, this is the picture I want." When he went to take the picture, there was a horse in the middle of the valley. And he didn't take pictures of landscapes with animals. I can tell you that right now. It's probably one of the few shots that he has that has an animal in the shot. So he basically said, either I wait another month or I just take the shot like it is. And, you know, by today's standards, probably take it out in Photoshop, but he left it. It's the picture he got, he left it, right? It's a classic picture. When I saw it, it was in a museum with a story right next to it, right? So the picture here that I'm showing is a picture that my wife and I waited in New York City, and we only waited 20 minutes, unlike Ansel Adams and his wife, which waited for a month. So I saw the eagle, and I knew exactly, when I saw this eagle, I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew the setup I wanted. I knew everything, right? So we had to wait, basically, because some people were walking from left to right, and they were walking far away from the wall. So they were too close to me, and they were walking in the wrong direction. So I waited and waited and waited, and wouldn't you know, one person decides to cross that alley. Call it an alley because it's a connector between two streets in New York City. It runs parallel to an avenue, and it was basically like a space to walk between buildings, right? And I was leaning against a railing. There were a bunch of tables and chairs laid out, so people probably ate lunch out there in the open. And it was after hours, you know, it was later, and there was nobody around. I think the restaurant had closed. Maybe they don't do dinner. It was just a lunch thing. And I'm leaning against the rail, and I'm waiting with my camera at my hip. And this guy starts walking from right to left, which is exactly what I needed, right along the wall, which is what I needed. It just came like heaven, right? So I took the picture. Those types of pictures are the most popular type of street photography pictures. A street photographer is going to walk around. They're going to see a view that they like, whether it's a pattern or whether it's a bunch of, you know, shadows in really cool directions or whatever it is, right? It could be reflections. It could be anything. And they say, this is it. This is the picture I want. Now I'm either going to wait for the light to be right, because the sun is rising, or I'm going to wait for whatever. And then on top of that, you have to wait for a person to come by to make it a street photograph. Can you take pictures without people? Of course you can. Those become more streetscapes, which is buildings and architecture, right? Things like that. When you start saying street photography, you're basically throwing people into the picture, right? Typically. So that's a second type of picture where we're talking about capturing a moment, but this time you're planning. You're not planning. You're waiting for something specific to happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Just keep that in mind, okay? I could have been waiting there for 3 hours, and maybe people would have been walking from right to left, or even the person walking from left to right. And maybe even the person walking from right to left would have been too close to me, and the picture wouldn't have worked, right? Because the mural is focused, this person would not have been focused, vice versa. So, second type of moment. So the first one we talked about was just any moment, right? When you take that picture, it's the moment. When you present it, it's going to be loved, right? Because it's unique and it's awesome. Because the place is awesome. Second type is when you are waiting for something specific to happen because you came across something very interesting, okay? Third type of photography is the type that I call man-made photography, or a man-made moment. And really what I meant was a man-made moments, not man-made photography. So the man-made moments are, for me, moments that are planned into an agenda, right? So what are they? I wrote a couple down. The wedding kiss, blowing out candles at a party, a birthday party, for example, anniversary, catching the bouquet at a wedding, crossing the finish line at a race, whether it's a car, motorcycle, people race, eclipse, lunar, solar eclipse, right? Those are examples of things that we know are going to happen at a specific moment in time. It's been planned, and we're basically just there ready to capture that planned moment. Those moments are very special, typically, and many of those, if we're there with a camera, it's probably a paid assignment, right? But it doesn't have to be, right? Sometimes I've seen at birthday parties 10 people with cameras. So we can be one of those people with our, fun camera. We may have a professional camera. We may have a fun camera. We may have a phone. So this is where the line comes in, Photographers say the best camera is the camera you are carrying, right? Because whatever camera you have is going to be a great camera to capture a good moment, right? Even if the picture's not perfect, it's better than not having a picture, right? Journalists use that a lot. Back in the film days, film would go up to like 3200 ISO. Typically, that was like the highest you wanted to go, and it was very grainy. And if the photographer knew they were going to be shooting late at night or some alley or something like that, they wanted to capture a very delicate moment and not be seen or heard, they would put this film in the camera. They couldn't use a flash, and they had a high-speed lens, and they would open it up completely, and they would take this picture, and it wasn't the best picture in the world, but in the journalist's eyes, they got paid for a picture. So it's better to have a picture that's grainy than not have a picture at all, right? So anything you're carrying on you is better than nothing. But if you can have a camera, of course, it's going to be much better than a cell phone. So that's basically the third category, is events that we know are planned, right? Our friends getting married, and we're going to be there. We're going to get the picture of the kiss. We're going to get the picture of them walking down the aisle. Those are moments, right? Those are moments as well. But these are planned moments, and we're just making sure that we're available for that moment. So at the end of all of this, not only is the moment that we're capturing important, having a camera that we love to carry and actually carrying it and using it becomes just as important. So make sure you have a small camera that you enjoy using. Make sure you take it with you everywhere you go, and make sure you pull it out and use it. That didn't come out right, did it? But you all know what I mean, right? So that concludes the video. Please like and subscribe. I hope this was fun. I hope it was entertaining. I hope it was sparked some thought. Don't forget to buy me a coffee if you get a chance. Go into the description. There's a buy me a coffee link that is going to allow me to get some gear rented so that I can do some reviews on it. And all of that, I've already started reviewing some stuff, and those are all coming very soon. And I guess that's it for today. Don't forget, the moment is really here, right? Whatever you decide the moment is the moment. There is no right or wrong moment to take a picture. Some moments that we capture become iconic, and you've seen some of those pictures in history that are pictures that we never will forget. And you have to have a camera of some type to capture those moments. So never be without a camera. I wish you guys a wonderful, wonderful weekend, a wonderful week. Keep shooting, and love you. Come back and we'll continue this with a different topic. Take care. Ciao for now.